Excuse me. Right, bedtime read then. The gods of the North. To gain a more complete understanding of the mysteries of the runes, it is necessary to digress a little into the myths and beliefs of the early Germanic people, and in particular to find out about their gods and their religious convictions. Now, some of you have seen me do the rune reads. You've also seen me do the Idrisil deck, the 9 realms, which I might do a read for that over the weekend, so you get to see him a bit. In his book, Germania, the ancient Roman author Tacitus wrote of the divinatory techniques of the ancient Germanic peoples and also attempted to describe their gods. You have to excuse me with pronunciation because I'm not very good at Norwegian and stuff. He states that Mercury is the chief of all deities, but also that Hercules, Isis and Mars are worshipped. In describing the gods by names familiar to the Romans, Tacitus revealed something that the nature of these divinities. In this case, Mercury, the cunning, swift-witted Roman god of commerce, so any of the air signs usually, travel and divination, can easily be identified with Odin or Wotan. Hercules, with his mighty club, can be seen as the equally formidable hammer-wielding Thor. And those of you that are into Marvel comics and stuff, that sort of thing, probably know more about that than I do. While Isis, Queen of Heaven, is probably the cloud-weaving Frigga. Likewise, Mars, god of war, can be read as Tyr or Tiwaz. The Roman author reinforces the point by stating that the Teutonic peoples are descended from an earthbound god called Tuisco or Tiwaz, and his sons Manas. Tacitus, therefore, gives us more information about Germanic religion and the basis of the Germanic people's belief in the runes that even he can possibly have suspected. To learn more about these mysteries, divinities, and indeed other gods worshipped by the Germanic and Norse people, we have to turn to the epic tales, poems, and sagas of Iceland. These were written in the medieval period and reflect a time of wild pagan adventures, some centuries in the writer's past. In these tables, the myths and characters of the Norse gods have been preserved. So you can see he's made like a family tree there. So, the Vanir and the Asir. I don't think that's how you pronounce it, I'm pretty sure it isn't. It's important to know that there is more than one type of god in the northern pantheon. Apart from the chaotic giants of frost and fire, who were said to dwell in the fringes of creation, the divinities of order were divided into 2 main families, the Asir and the Vanir. The Vanir seems to have predated the other gods, being pastoral deities associated with harvest, the fertility of beasts and humans, not least the earth itself. The most notable of the Vanir were the children of Njord, the beloved twins Freya and Frey, whose names mean the Lord and the Lady, respectively. The other godly dynasty was known as Asir. These were headed by Odin and his wife Frigga, and is among these deities that we find such familiar characters as Thor, the thunder god, and Tyr, god of war, both sons of Odin. Of course, as king of the gods, Odin was expected to have many sons, and among them can be numbered Baldur, the beautiful, and his twin brother. Hodor, the blind, representing light and dark, day and night, summer and winter. The guardian of Asgard and the rainbow bridge that led to it was the ever-watchful Heimdall, himself a result of the union of Odin with the 9 sea giantesses. known as the Wave of Maidens, though we shall swiftly pass over the problem of how Heimdall managed to have 9 mothers. Heimdall was the god who stood between the ancestors of humankind, who revealed the secrets of the runes to his mortal descendants. As might be expected, he figures largely in runic symbolism, having associations with no fewer than 5 runes on the 24 in the rune sequence. Before we leave the realm of Asgard, there is one god who is something of an anomaly, the treacherous Loki, born of the race of giants and the hated rival of Heimdall. Loki personifies wild, uncontrollable fire, in contrast to his enemy, Heimdall, who symbolizes a torch or beacon, a friend to humankind. Nevertheless, Loki was blood brothers to Odin, and his mischief was tolerated because of that kinship. However, Loki must have stretched the divine patience considerably, because it was he who was caused the death of Baldur. And even though Sleipnir, one of his children, was considered benign, it was also he who was parent to the vile Hela and the monstrous wolf Fenris, who tried to destroy the universe and was fated to devour Odin at the end of the world at Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods. So we've learnt a bit about them, haven't we? Should we read, let me see how many pages we've got on this then. We'll read another one. Wounded, I hung on a wind-swept gallows for 9 long nights, pierced by a spear, pledged to Odin, offered myself to myself. The wisest know not from whence spring the roots of that ancient tree. Now this is talking about the hanged man. Do you remember? They gave me no bread, they gave me no mead. I looked down with a loud cry. I took up runes from that tree I fell. So that's the victim, the martyr in the hanged man. The 2 families of gods once fought a war in which the Vanir were the victors due to their ability to predict the future. This was a gift that Odin was determined to gain for himself. After peace was declared, hostages were exchanged as a guarantee against future hostilities. Odin's brother Hörnir went to live in Vanheim, home of the Vanir, while Njord and his children, Frey and Freya, made their abode in Odin's realm of Asgard. Once this exchange was accomplished, Odin decided to put himself through a terrible ordeal, and for 9 days and 9 nights hung from the wild tree Yggdrasil, wounded by his own spear. By this self-sacrifice, Odin gained the knowledge of the runes. However, he still did not think that he had sufficient wisdom to use them. So in order that he might drink from the well of memory, Odin paid a terrible price by plucking out one of his own eyes. Now Odin had knowledge of the future, yet he still did not believe that he knew enough. So he turned to Vanir, goddess Freya, and persuaded her to teach him magic. Only then did Odin finally feel that his position as king of the gods was secure, at least until Ragnarok, the day of doom that had been fated by the web of weird. For although Odin had the knowledge of the runes, it was the implacable Norns who first wrote them. So one more bit then, the Norns, and we'll do the Nam worlds tomorrow. So the 3 sisters who were the Norns, or goddesses of fate, were not part of either the divine families, although they do seem to have had some affinity with the Vanir. They formed a separate group and were considered to be subject to nothing save the dictates of necessity. The goddesses represented time itself and were therefore thought of as women of different ages. Erd, the Norn of the past, was thought to be a very old and decrepit, always looking backwards to the way things were. The young and vibrant Verdandi Norn of the present looked fearlessly ahead, while Skuld, the mysterious Norn of the future, was depicted as veiled, holding a scroll that has not yet been opened. Two of the Norns, Erd and Verdini, were said to be more kindly than their sister Skuld, who often undid their work, angrily scattering the almost finished patterns before they had come to fruition. The Norns dwelt at the roots of the great world tree, Yggdrasil, and it was part of their job to sprinkle it with water drawn from the well of fate to ensure that it developed as destiny demanded. Principally, though, the Norns wove the web of weird that set out the fates of gods and humans. Legend has it that they wove designs so awesome in scope that if one of them stood on a mountain top in the farthest east and another waded far into the ocean in the farthest west, the full extent of their pattern could still never be fully seen. The concept of three prophetic witches survived the pagan period in Europe and entered folklore both as the three good fairies who bestowed gifts on Sleeping Beauty and in a more sinister guise as the three weird sisters of Shakespeare's play Macbeth, and the loving ones that are like in the Terry Pratchett weird sisters. But the power of the three has always been known as very, very important. Number 3 is a very special mystical number. Hope you enjoyed that. We'll read some more another day. Right, take care.